Shalom all, Stacy the Black Feather Intuitive, and welcome to Divinely Decked Tarot and Oracle Reviews done Stacy style. And today I have decided to try something new with y'all. We are going to do a deep deck dive. This is intuitive tarot, one card at a time. So I'm going to say, welcome to the deck deep dive. This is where we slow down, listen to the cards, and build a real relationship with the deck beyond the guidebook. I'm really excited to be sharing this with you guys. The idea came to me, and I don't know if this has been done by other people, but the idea came to me, I want to say just before Christmas, so probably a month and a half ago, where I recognized that I have a particular process that I like to do with my tarot decks, a journaling process. I really enjoy getting to know a deck. And sometimes I don't always get it done because I'm so busy doing 57,000 other things. So I thought, well, I'm very dedicated with my content creation. I'm very dedicated with, putting information out there for you guys to enjoy. So why not combine the two? And this way I can do a deep deck dive study and I can do it along with you guys. So that is kind of what we're here to explore today. And I've broken it down into sort of a 6-week process. So for this week, we're going to introduce ourselves to the deck that I've chosen. And we're going to kind of get some first impressions. We're going to flip through it a bit intuitively. And I'm going to pull, a few cards out there and just kind of talk about them and see if we can get a general first impression of the deck itself. And for this particular deep deck dive, I decided to go with a deck that would be easy for you guys to purchase if you wanted to do this along with me. So without further ado, let's introduce ourselves to the deck that I've chosen. And we are going to be doing Under the Oak Tarot. So I've had this deck for a while, guys, and I absolutely love it. And I chose it again because it's a Lo Scarabeo. Very easy for you guys to be able to purchase. I got this through thrift books, but I believe you can also get this on Amazon. I believe that you can also get this off of the Lo Scarabeo website. So it's very accessible if it's something that you wanted to do along with me on this particular journey. It is by Ofride and Strega della Mele, and it's a beautiful box. They have different imagery on all of the sides of the box. It's a really solid box, which I always really like. And, this deck deep dive is not really going to be like a traditional deck review like what I do on this channel with this. This is going to be more about really trying to build a relationship with this deck and doing it from an intuitive perspective. So I think for the next card review and journaling deck deep dive that I'm going to do, I'll choose one that I haven't really worked with a lot. This one I have worked with a fair amount, but let's just kind of play around with it and see what we've got. So as we are just kind of flipping through, I'll just flip through a few of these, and I'm going to pick ones that intuitively sort of stand out to me as ones that I'd like to explore. This one always stands out to me as one that, causes me to kind of go a little bit deeper. This deck also uses some interesting imagery for the royalty cards. Oh, I do love the star card. This is another really good one because I'll explain why in a second, but it's a different imagery than what we, sort of normally expect from something like that. Here's the title card. So here, the Six of Swords, they do a lot of imagery using runes, which I think is really cool as well. That Nine of Cups is so pretty. King of Pentacles, Queen of Swords. So a lot of the royalties have this stone, sort of this stone energy through them. So it's not an actual person. It's stone, which I find very interesting to explore. As you can see, the imagery is a bit whimsical in nature, We have a heroine in the deck that sometimes is filled with, sometimes has her blindfold on, and sometimes she doesn't have a blindfold on. And so it's always very interesting. Excuse me. I like the fantastical imagery that they use. 3 times a charm. I'm going to pick that one out. Let's do a couple more. It's fantastical. It's soft. It's gentle. It's inviting. You've got the light and the dark, which I think is always really important, a nice contrast. Here we have another queen, and she is a statue, so stone for the queens and the kings. The Emperor is interesting. 10 of Cups. I love the use of the mice in this deck as well. I think that's so cool. Oh, yeah, that's a really good one. Okay, so throughout the course of this series, we will, be able to see through all of this this deck. But for today, just intuitively, these are the ones that I've chosen here. So we're going to take a look at the High Priestess, a very unique High Priestess compared to our traditional Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot. I've chosen the Two of Wands. What I love about this, partially I chose this just because this image always makes me feel so good. She's like, oh, I want to go and explore, but I need some help. And so my friendly teddy bear, will you come with me? I want to see the lights in the sky. And, I want to take on a new journey, but I'm a little scared. And will you hold my hand? Will you go with me? I just think this is so sweet. And that Two of Wands is often about a direction, but intuitively looking at the card, it just feels so sweet, so inviting. 5 of Pentacles, I chose this card because the imagery doesn't necessarily match what we think of as a traditional 5 of Pentacles, and I like that. I find that really interesting because it means as a card, I am going to be relying more on my intuitive senses. I'm going to be focusing specifically on the image itself in order to get information around it. I also chose the 8 of Cups. For those of you who've been following me for a long time, I have an affinity for the swan. I see the swan as a starseed imagery, but the 8 of Cups, I've never seen an 8 of Cups like this. And so this is another card that when I pull this card in a reading, it always gives me pause. It causes me to go a little bit deeper into the meaning to figure out what it actually is, because the 8 of Cups is about release, walking away, letting go. Sometimes it's also delving deep. But in this image, and we'll talk about it in a second, but in this image, I don't know that I necessarily, get that off the hop. So that means there's something else to explore. I chose the Star card because we don't often see 2 figures in a Star card. And what we're seeing here is a solid figure and an apparition. So we can interpret this in a number of different ways. This could be her spirit or her high self that she's talking to. This can be a reflection, the dark and the light reflection within her, the divine masculine and feminine within her. This can also be a spirit, a guide, a spirit, loved one in spirit that is coming to her. So there are many different ways that we can interpret this particular Star card. And finally, I also chose here the 2 of Pentacles because this particular card always stops me in my tracks, because I'm like, I don't always get it from that logical perspective. When we think of 2 of Pentacles, it's resource and it's also balance. What are you balancing? What are you juggling? Here you have our heroine that is blindfolded. She's holding this little mouse or this little hamster in her hands. I get the feeling that she knows who this guy is, like this is a friend of hers. So she's just being very, careful and cautious as to how she's holding him. And we see all of these crystals around her. The crystals could be considered resource, right? They could be considered an energy that she can tap into. But in terms of balance, she's not juggling anything. We're not seeing like her feet precariously balanced on anything. She's just blindfolded in a cave with a number of crystals, and there's an infinity sign, which can indicate some level of balance, but it causes me to go a little bit deeper into the card itself to figure out, what did the author mean? What did the creator mean? What was the creator seeing? So I feel like choosing these cards kind of intuitively to introduce us a little bit to this beautiful, fun, fantastical deck is a pretty good spread of what we're going to be getting. And I'm just noticing I chose a lot of the darker cards, nighttime cards. That's kind of interesting. That says a lot to me right away. Maybe that's just the mood I'm in today, more of we're in a new moon energy at the time that I am recording this. So maybe there's just a little bit of that moon energy. I'm not feeling 100% today. So, maybe that's what's going on. But I do like that there is such a strong sense of the color in these cards. They use a lot of color to explain what's going on. Let's talk about the Five of Pentacles here. When I'm looking at this, a Five of Pentacles is usually a card of worry or a card of being the outsider. That feeling of a day late and a dollar short, or the one who misses the joke, never gets the joke. That often can feel like that Five of Pentacles energy. But here we have all these cute little meesy-miceys, and they're hard at work. They're pouring their molten, their gold, their alchemy. They're pouring their alchemy into this. They've created a little, a train or a track, and a mold in essence. And maybe these are, wheels of cheese for them or whatever it is. But when we look at this card, we're seeing these mice kind of hard at work, and they're in the process of creating something. So when we talk about a card of worry, or we talk about anxiety, or we talk about being the outsider, I don't really get a feel here about being an outsider as much as I feel that these mice are working together to create something that is going to be beneficial for everyone involved. So I'm always curious, why did the creator, create this as their Five of Pentacles? There's always a reason. Also noticing there are these beautiful sort of amethyst crystals in the background. You can see that they are in a cave. So they are, working in secret. They're working in the dark. Also, this imagery does lend itself to the stained glass windows of the traditional Five of Pentacles card. So they are nodding to that. Thank you, Neo. They are nodding to the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith, but their approach is very different. Again, the Two of Wands, I chose this just because I love it, but look at all the beautiful colors. We have the Aurora Borealis that is happening in the sky. We have some star activity. We've got a beautiful fire and a beautiful flame giving them heat. It doesn't look like they're particularly cold. She's in a nightgown. And of course, the bear is in his bear suit, so no problems there. Apparently, Mr. Neo wants to participate in this video. We've got this beautiful flame that is creating its own images. This feels very soul-based, soul energy when I'm looking at this. And then, of course, we see these beautiful flowers, white flowers. Anytime white flowers show up in tarot, it represents, thank you so much. It represents purity. It represents source energy. So that Two of Wands, when we're talking about sort of that direction space and choosing a direction, here she's blindfolded. So in this deck, I've noticed that there are cards where she's blindfolded and cards where she's not. The cards where she's not, that is her in her waking state. That is her in her real life. And when she is blindfolded, that's her in the dream state. And so I feel like there's a lot of beautiful contrast in these cards. to that dream state and the waking state. And so we're seeing her in a dream. And this is what she really wants to do. And her bear is taking her along for the ride. And for those of you who, purport to a lot of the metaphysical, you understand that in the dream state, we travel a lot. We go different places. It's not just a movie in our mind. A lot of times we are experiencing that person, place, or thing. And so I feel that this deck is a commentary for that. And I love that about it as well. Here we've got some fireflies that are showing up in the deck as well. Fireflies bringing light to a situation, highlighting a particularly poignant moment. Light, of course, is the source, divine energy. So when you see a light bug, a firefly, and they're following you, they are bringing the light wherever you go. So wherever you go, you're always going to have some source of light and energy. You take that with you. The high priestess here. So instead of a figure sitting on the throne, we're seeing a beautiful stork. And the stork is in between two trees, which represents the traditional pillars in the high priestess card. We do see, instead of a scroll, we're seeing a book. And out of the book comes these beautiful flowers. Now, normally this would be pomegranates. I feel like they're using the flowers in place of the pomegranates to indicate as above, so below. It is sitting in a pond or a marsh energy. And so there is the water element that is being represented here. Instead of the moon being in the sky, we're seeing a reflection of the moon in the pond, which I think is really beautiful. And storks always bring something new. They're bringers of messages, bringers of information, bringers of gifts, bringers of family members, right? A stork brings a baby is the old story, the old philosophy. So this high priestess card, with having the stork as the main figure, I feel puts a different spin on the card itself. And when you pull this card, it's not only about your intuition and what you're receiving from that perspective, but it's also about understanding that the intuition is a gift. And how do you want to use that gift? How are you going to apply that gift moving forward? Yes, there is a lot of as above, so below that is here, but this also is very fantastical. It's like a dream state. So in the dream state, we are above and below. Our bodies are in the now, in the physical, and our dream state is in the energetic, in the spiritual realm. So I really love this interpretation. I think it's really cool. Let's talk about this Eight of Cups. So again, as you're looking at this card, what are your impressions? If you know the standard traditional Rider-Waite-Smith tarot, this doesn't necessarily make sense. But we don't always have to read it in those traditional ways. When I started learning tarot, I had to learn it intuitively. I tried to do it the other way, and I was just completely lost and flummoxed. But when I got out of my left brain, stepped into my right brain, and just allowed the cards to tell the story, that was when, things started to flow. So intuitively, when I look at this, I feel a sense of calm. I feel a sense of peace. We're seeing this beautiful swan, and it looks like she's bathing herself in, this beautiful pool. Whenever I see ripples like this, also in the star card, it always makes me think of how we're all connected. You throw that pebble in the pond and you get the ripple effect. It might be a tiny little pebble in the center of the pond, but it's going to eventually affect the entire pond. So, being aware that our actions have meaning, our actions make a difference, our actions have an effect on the environment and the people around us. I'm loving the blue flowers on a vine. So, a vine energy. These put me always in mind of morning glories, which brings me actually back to the morning glories that used to grow up my grandparents' garage wall. And so when I look at this, I am brought to a positive memory, a happy memory, a memory of one of the few memories of my childhood that I A, have, and B, that was actually happy and joyful. So this card, when I'm looking at it intuitively, brings me into a happy space and a happy place. Here we have these flowers that all are, kind of globed. Whenever something has that resonance or that glow around it, it always makes me think of enlightenment. And we've got a circle of enlightenment, 8 of these enlightened orbs. And of course, we have the, not the triskelion, but it's a Celtic knot here in the center. So, head, heart, soul, body, mind, spirit, that triune energy that is coming through. And we're seeing a sunny sky. In the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith, this is an eclipse. It's usually at night, but this one is in the day. So it's really showing for me, this is a happy card. This is a joyful card. Yes, we have the mountain, and the mountain feels like it's providing protection, support, shielding. This doesn't necessarily feel like a journey that I'm about to take. It actually feels like a pause, like a chance to, sit back and really cleanse my space, cleanse my aura, come to terms with or reconnect with who I am, who I'm choosing to be, that type of energy. So not at all what the Ace of Cups is about, but if I were to apply it to the Ace of Cups, it would be that whatever this new journey is that I'm going to be walking towards, whatever it is that I'm releasing, it's a joyful experience. It can be calming. It's leading me to enlightenment. And perhaps there is an eclipse that is occurring, which means there's a complete reset, but I'm ready for it and I'm protected. And then the star, just kind of wrapping us up here with the star card. Loving, again, the two individuals, like I said before, they can represent a number of different things, but the star card is always about health, and it's about a new vision, kind of like the dawning of a new day, and, go big or go home. What is the next vision that you have for yourself? And you're always going to have spiritual support in making that choice. I'm noticing that the tree is going in 2 different directions. The tree is one, but there are 2 different paths that you can take, and the star is in the center of it. So it's kind of like, yeah, you can take this path, or you can create a new one. You can continue to move forward. There are so many choices, so many options. Wow. So one of the things that I always like to kind of pay attention to when I'm tapping into a deck is any form of resistance to something. When I find a card that I'm like, ooh, I don't quite like that, or I'm not feeling good about that. And I should have kept one of these out, but as we were going through these, I was mentioning sort of the stones, not so much that one, but the ones where I think we had a page. I'll see if I can find one really quickly, but I have a little resistance to the ones that are, kind of representing the stone, simply because to me, yeah, here's one. We'll look at that. To me, queens, for example, they're not stony. I don't feel that queen energy is cold or harsh. And I know sometimes, people, when they're dealing with the Queen of Swords, they often think of her as cold or stony or detached. It's not actually true. I mean, sometimes it can be true, but it's not actually true. And so I have resistance to the royalty cards in this deck because of this whole concept of stone. Like, what does it mean that it's stone? Is it that, it's fantastical, and so in this girl's dream, they aren't real figures? Or maybe in her real life, they're unattainable, or it's intangible for her. It's just these figures that are up there and there's no connection to them. Is that why there's, stone there? So even in resistance to a card, I want to look into that resistance and say, okay, what is it bringing up for me? And so, for example, we can just talk about this Queen of Cups. So there is a little bit of life on this Queen of Cups. We've got 3 queens sitting together, and the life is this eel or this snake. It feels like an eel to me, but it could be a snake as well. A snake, snakes are wisdom, transformation, knowledge in a lot of ways. The fact that it's white points out to me that source energy is connected to this. but everything else is stony. And it's been there for a really long time because you're also seeing all of these vines that are growing around it and along it. They have different expressions on their faces. So they're expressive, but it's kind of like, okay, where is their life? A Queen of Cups, to me, has a lot of life because it's about the ocean of our emotion, right? It's our creative flow, creative expression. It's our compassion. So when I see this, sort of stony, it just kind of leaves me a little bit like, I wonder what that's about. Queen of Swords, it's flat. It's the first thing that I notice. It's like a tombstone. It's flat. It's honoring somebody, but it's not honoring somebody. Maybe it's honoring their life. It's showing some, I want to say, some keys, and we're seeing some grapes, that are diving in. So you get a little bit of a sense of who this queen was or is, or who it's, the monument is to, but you're not really getting a feel for, what that queen energy is. They show a lot here with color. So we've got, pinks and purples. But again, there is a companion. There is a source companion, and we've got a white butterfly that is flowing here. So perhaps source is encouraging us in this deck to bring a little more life to these characteristics, to these archetypes and aspects. But I feel like it's important for us to ask those things, So if you're wanting to do this journey along with me, and you get this deck, I encourage you to kind of do what I did today. You go through the deck intuitively, you pick out some ones that sort of stand out to you, and then just sit with them. You can write out in your journal what your impressions are of each of the cards. Do you like it? Do you not like it? What kind of feeling does it give you? Does it connect you in a mental way? Does it connect you in a physical way? Sort of in a spiritual way? Some decks I've had where I've run across where I'm like, I just don't even want to touch this card. I don't like this. Those are things that you want to jot down because the cards are invoking a particular subconscious form of expression for you. And that's where the messages are really going to come from. So I encourage you over the next week, if you are going to do this journey with me, to notice which cards from this deck naturally draw your attention. You can pause with them and observe what feelings or thoughts arise without trying to interpret them. And if you're just watching the video and you're taking it all in and all on, I would encourage you to maybe choose one of the cards that I pulled out here and sit with it. See where you are noticing it showing up in your life. Kind of look at the imagery of it and go a little bit deeper. Meditate on it. You can always come back to this video. You can, screenshot this here and, and use that to your advantage as well to work through that. But we're going to connect next week, and you'll be able to see, how this deck is going to develop, how our relationship with this deck is going to develop. But in the meantime, you can pick and choose these images and sit with them and see what you get from all of this. And I always like to say, you don't need to, really search for their cards. Their energy will meet you in real life. Your only job this week is to notice what you notice about the connections that you have. Wow. Okay. So that is our deck deep dive for this week. This is week 1 of a 6-week journey, a 6-week little series on Under the Oak Tarot. Can't wait to see what week 2 is going to bring us as we get to know this deck. Like, subscribe, click the bell on my YouTube, all that fun stuff. Click the join button if you want to go a little deeper and keep the conversation going. Become a fabulous Phoenix with me. Would love to be able to connect with you in that way. Until we see you for another episode of Divinely Decked, sending you lots of love and support, and we'll see you on the flip side. Transform well. That's our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. It was great to connect with you guys. Please like, subscribe, and comment for more content like this. And feel free to follow me on Blue Sky for even more content every single day. Can't wait to see you guys next week for another installment of Black Feather Couture, Divining the VIP Life.